Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We liked our movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained as pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feeling bit by bit. Sweetie and sweetie, we're here to say it's the Large Marge sent us podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Sent Us podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweet sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie with a Y.
And I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And it's St. Paddy's Day.
St. Paddy's Day. Top of the morning to ya.
Top of the morning. Top of the
crack.
Top of the the evening. What? Is that how you say that?
No, I don't think that's an expression, but
it's like crack
or
something?
something.
I don't know.
CRAIC.
Anyways,
fun.
it's St. Paddy's Day.
What a lot of crack.
We made it. We were going to do this yesterday. Duty calls. I had to do it today. So maybe you're listening to this the day after St. Paddy's Day. That's fine.
That's okay. It's not that.
It's not a rule.
Well, this isn't a St. Paddy's Day movie that we did.
I mean, it basically is, though.
You can watch it any time of the year.
It doesn't take place on St. Paddy's Day, but it's like... Anyways, okay, so the movie we have chosen is The Leprechaun. Is it The Leprechaun or just Leprechaun? Oh. Wow, your penmanship looks really good there where you wrote Leprechaun. I'm really impressed.
It's half
like
cursive.
Wow.
I'm the Leprechaun.
Leprechaun. Everybody's favorite movie about leprechauns. One of the only movies about leprechauns.
You know, poor Ireland doesn't get too many movies, and this is one of them.
This is one of them. But hey, great movie. I had a great time. I didn't even take that many notes because I was just really enraptured.
I was really enjoying it. I really miss, you know what this reminded me of, this watching, when we watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Something about the campy horror that, you know, isn't super scary. It's more funny. It's
kind of like, it's like its own genre of like something takes over a small sleepy town and mayhem ensues. I would classify that, with killer clowns. Anytime there's like a killer animal on the loose, it's basically the same thing.
The blob.
And
so, you know, I was shocked to learn, Sweetie here, resident horror movie aficionada, that she hadn't seen this before. So that was fun.
I guess I haven't. I kept being like, have I seen this? I was like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know, other than like, I didn't love comedy, like silly movies like that. So maybe I was just like not on my radar, and like people weren't like super excited about it or something. Right. I don't know. And why? I mean, I watched other movies kind of like this, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's a mystery. It's a mystery to me.
So fun though. So my history, and probably Sweetie's too, I won't speak for her, but I'm assuming this movie goes back to when we saw Wayne's World 2. Right?
Is it in the second one?
I know. I can't remember. I think it's in 2. And this movie is mentioned. So Wayne is like trying to scare Garth, and he has like a flashlight, and he like pretends to be the leprechaun, and he like has his basically fat bastard accent, and he's like, I'm the leprechaun. He's like freaking Garth out. And really, really funny part of that movie. And it became sort of like this, I don't know, pop culture thing. After that, I feel like, where even if you hadn't seen it, you were like familiar with this movie, The Leprechaun, and we always like wanted to see it, but you know, never got around to it.
Did we? I don't know if I ever like wanted to see it, but
I don't know. But seeing the way they made fun of it in Wayne's World made me think that it was really scary, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it. Yeah,
but it really wasn't.
I mean, it wasn't. But on the other hand, Sweet Eye Jimmy said at least 4 times that something was very scary, like under his breath. Yeah. So I feel like he's gonna have some nightmares
it's more
tonight.
Like an imagery.
He might have residual leprechaun.
It's imagery scary, kind of. Like I called it the Irish Chucky because it's very similar in that the scary thing is like so gross and scary, and just the way he moves and like the physical aspect to him is the most scary thing.
I found him endearing. I don't know.
Yeah, I did just like Chucky though. You kind of like him. He's funny, man.
Who doesn't love a bad boy?
I know.
Like, it's fun.
With an accent. Who doesn't love an accent?
It was just really, I just thought it was very funny. I guess that the other reason people know about this movie is because It is the debut film of Jennifer Aniston, which everyone loves to bring up. Is like, I'm Jennifer Aniston, and like Matthew McConaughey was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, is like his big break. So a lot of stars get their first movie in horror movies because there's like a lot of them. They don't really care if you're a well-known actor. They just like need somebody to act in a bad movie. Right. So, but she's great in this. Yeah. She's like her peppy self. Good seeing that, Jen.
Yeah, she's like, kind of Rachel-esque in the sense she's like kind of this like city chick, the country, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't seem like she can like do a lot, but then she really holds her own by the end. Very good character arc for that Tory.
Yeah, proud of that bitch.
Yeah, totally. So Leprechaun is from 1993, so coming into the mid-90s. So as we said, feature film debut of Jennifer Aniston. I guess she like was reported to like forget, quote unquote, she was in this movie to the point maybe she was like embarrassed by it. But then I guess there was other things where she said, no, I definitely like got my start there, but definitely maybe not her proudest moment. I don't know. But I agree. I think her acting was fantastic.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's great.
Great
Some good
platform.
Comedy moments. Yeah.
I mean, was that on her resume when she like interviewed for Friends? Like, oh, I see you're in the Leprechaun.
Probably. Well, it was on her reel of like things probably.
Right. So the Leprechaun is played by 80s, 90s character actor of small stature, Warwick Davis. So the most famous little person to come out of like the 80s and 90s, I'd say. You know him from Willow. Wicket from Star Wars movies.
Various other characters from Star Wars. I think wasn't he like a Jawa?
Oh, yep. And then a couple of Harry Potter roles.
And probably some other. He's been in so many things that you don't even realize it.
Yeah. Unlike Peter Dinklage, who I feel like is sort of the little person actor of like our time, is he always played like costume fantasy.
Well, that's
right?
I mean, the thing is that like little people who want to be considered like actual actors like are trying to get away from like playing a costume, such a different like small thing. So,
but I looked at his resume and he's still like the last movie he did was in Maleficent. He was like a character.
I mean, he's great at it, and does characters and character voices, and his movement's really good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, why not keep the paychecks rolling in? More power to you.
I don't know how he worked those shoes. I got to be honest. So the Leprechaun wears these like high-heeled boots with little buckles. The sketchiest shoes, scariest shoes in the world. To be honest, the pilgrim shoe with the buckle. We've talked about.
Well, I think the scariest shoe in the world is a pointed toe shoe. And if these were pointed toes, yes, they would be scary. But I found them quite fashionable. And I was like, they were just booties, basically. I have basically the same pair.
I have ones just like them without the buckle.
Yeah. It just looks scary because he's like little and like running around.
And he had these red and white striped tights. Like, oh, God, it freaked me out.
Red and white?
Yeah.
Why?
I know. It didn't go with like the whole outfit.
The original color for St. Paddy's Day was right. I thought it was red.
We did a St. Patrick's Day Jeopardy game today.
Lost.
Let me tell you, sweetie lost with a whopping negative.
It was really hard.
Points.
Who knows Irish lore on Leprechaun?
It was really, really hard. But we did learn a lot of Leprechaun facts before watching this movie, and they all jived with this movie.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they added some things. We should probably verify some of the lore, but yeah.
So a couple other people in this movie. Our favorite, Mark Holton, otherwise known as Francis from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And Stool Angel from A League of Their Own.
Grown Up.
Yep. Great guy. He plays a sort of, what do you call it? Like, not village idiot, but what else is the other word? Idiot, not even idiot savant,
dumb.
But like, just like a dumb, sweet guy. Probably someone who was just like a little bit low IQ or whatever, like you would call that of this time.
I really, until he said that, I did not realize that he was supposed to be that kind of character. He seemed perfectly normal.
I know. Really, really
at
sweet.
The start.
Sweet turn, obviously, Francis and Stool Angel. Well, he was the older Stool Angel, so he was nice by then, but nice to see that guy being like a nice guy.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that too. I was like, wow, he can really bounce back and forth between these roles of like terrible and
range.
What range?
Small role, only on for a brief moment, but Zach Morris's dad.
What happens to him? He's in the hospital chilling this whole time
with a cat bite.
with the leprechaun bite that could have. I thought he was going to develop into like some, disease,
pretty nasty.
like give birth to baby leprechauns or something. But
cool.
I mean, maybe it did, and they deleted that scene. Who knows?
And then also, little Walt buddy from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Walter,
Walt.
youngest brother of Christina Applegate character. We call him Little Walt buddy because that's what Kenny calls him when he
Fell off
the roof. He comes
What was he
hobbling
doing
out
on the roof, Kenny?
with his crutchers.
Walt
good
buddy.
stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, and he's also the friend in Rookie of the Year, and there's something else. So again, people very, very working a lot. Let's say in this time period. So they got sucked into the Leprechaun movie. So Leprechaun. So this is, like we said, classified horror comedy. Also became a cult classic. Really, once Jennifer Aniston became big, people went back to go watch this movie because they were like, "Ooh, her first movie, like let's watch it." So it kind of got a lot of buzz after she became famous, and then it spawned like 1 billion sequels, which is
as
like,
most of these kinds of movies.
Yeah, it's right for a sequel,
because
right?
because people found them entertaining,
Right.
as we did.
Yeah.
I think this was also probably a movie that played a lot on TV and maybe was viewed a lot at sleepovers. Is my other
I would love that.
theory.
So there was sequels 2 and 3, just called Leprechaun 2, Leprechaun 3. Okay.
Classic.
Yep, classic. Then Leprechaun 4 is in space.
Sure.
Got to do a space
Always
one.
got to do space.
Leprechaun 5 in the hood.
Yeah, that one's supposed to be pretty good.
And then a sequel of that one back in the hood.
Oh, maybe that one's the one that's supposed to be good. I don't know. One of
And
the hoods
then
is
I
good.
think it gets a little darker and a little bit more serious, maybe less comedy because the posters look scarier because they're called Leprechaun Returns and Leprechaun Origins. So then they have like some prequel. I bet that's scary shit. Right there.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, but there's some like old Celtic creepy shit. So yeah, spawned the movie that spawned 1,000 sequels. Cool. We're not going to probably see any of them, but glad they exist. None
for
other
you,
star
Leprechaun.
Jennifer Aniston. Very sad.
Good
She
for
shouldn't.
you.
She should make a cameo in one. I love that.
That'd be great.
The fans would love it.
They should do a series on Netflix. Reboot it. The time is now. But yeah, all right. So, anything else?
No, let's just get into the plot and ring in this St. Paddy's Day with probably the most famous icon of Ireland, the leprechaun, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for the sweetie synopsis.
Yeah, sweeties.
Burn in hell, you little green bastard.
Daniel O'Grady is an Irish man who has moved to North Dakota. Unclear why. He has brought back from Ireland a leprechaun. Well, technically at first we see that he's brought back the leprechaun's gold. But then we find out he also brought back the leprechaun in a suitcase? Or did the leprechaun just like stow away? Maybe he's hidden there.
I didn't think he brought the leprechaun. Why did he come back in a limo?
Because he had the gold.
Because he had the gold.
So he was like,
And then
yeah, I'm rich.
Okay, I'm rich. I think he just found. The whole thing with leprechauns is you're supposed to catch them, and then they are supposed to show you where their pot of gold is. At the end of the rainbow, the only way you can get there is if the leprechaun shows you. So he did say, I caught him, and he showed me where the gold was.
Okay.
But then in the beginning, you have the leprechaun being like, nobody touches my gold. And like,
he
I'm
didn't
going
want to- yeah, he
I'm
was
going to
like-
get you if you catch my gold.
Didn't play by the rules or
Right,
something, I
right.
guess.
That's
I don't
what
know.
that's
Or
what
maybe
I
they
liked
like
about it.
forgot about that part of the myth. I don't know. But yeah, so maybe the leprechaun just like followed him and like stashed himself in the suitcase.
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. So his wife's like, why do you have this? I'm not going to ask questions, whatever. He's like, don't worry, we're rich. It's fine. So then he like goes somewhere and his wife hears a child's voice coming out of the suitcase like, help me, I'm stuck in the suitcase. Get me out, I can't breathe. And she's like, what? Opens it. It's the leprechaun. She's so freaked out. She falls backwards down the stairs and like breaks her neck immediately and is dead. So then O'Grady comes back. He's like, what'd you do to my wife? There's some kind of confrontation. There's a shamrock involved that he's like pointing at him, almost like it's like a cross with a vampire.
Because I didn't know this, learned it from this movie.
I mean,
only way to kill a leprechaun.
They could have made it up.
Why would you want to kill a leprechaun? I guess I've never known them to be so violent. So I'm like, why is this an option? You have to kill them.
Maybe that's why they made it up.
Right. But apparently 4-leaf clover, that's how you kill a leprechaun.
In this movie.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's true. We haven't verified that.
That's true.
But yeah, so he like shoots the leprechaun and then shoves him in a crate and then puts the shamrock on top. But the leprechaun's like still able to use his leprechaun magic, I guess, and gives him a heart attack, we think.
Or he was just like too stressed out from the whole
thing. Or
thing.
too stressed out and had a heart attack. I don't know. So he collapses. You think he's dead. And you're like, oh,
because he's like
sad.
dragging his wife's body from upstairs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's pretty heavy. Yeah. So we think he's dead. Whatever. 10 years later, now Tori, a city girl from LA, I suppose, is staying with her dad in North Dakota for the summer, and he has gotten a great deal on this old rickety fuck house with everything still in it from the previous owners. I wouldn't be surprised if the dead bodies from the previous owners were in that house.
Nothing.
And they were
was
like,
cleaned
it
up.
comes with dead bodies and old Lucky Charms.
mean,
And like
10-year-old
that was
cereal.
the selling point. Yeah. So she's like, Dad, what is this house? And like, fair point, Tori, like that place was bad.
I didn't realize like all the shit was still in there when she was complaining. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's her problem? Why won't
No,
she
it's
stay at her
disgusting.
dad's
There were,
house
like,
in North Dakota?
3-mile wide things of spider webs like everywhere. There's literally a tarantula like crawling around in this
Is that
house.
what
A
happens when
giant
something isn't
rat
lived in for 10 years? I'd like to
I
do
guess.
that experiment.
in North Dakota, maybe. Sure. I'm like, I guess. But lots of critters. And this crate is still in the basement. So she's having a terrible time. She's like, I want to leave. But then she runs into Nathan, hot guy painter, who owns a company called 3 Guys That Paint, which
Original.
should be called 2 Guys and 1 Kid That Kind of Paint, but not very well. They're like painting the outside of this house bright red and blue. Like it almost looked like Pee-wee's house and Pee-wee, except
Terrible.
like, it was very strange.
And they did not know what they're doing.
They didn't know what they're doing. There's like paint all over the place.
I mean, one guy has special needs
They're
and the other guy's a
using-
child.
They're using little paintbrushes to paint this giant house. So the strokes are like very just like all over the place. It was bad. It was a bad stitch. But Tori's in like love with Nathan because he's pretty hot. He's got this like glorious head of hair, pretty muscular. He's hottie. He's a hottie. So she's like, oh, just kidding. I'll stick around. And so she hangs out to like flirt with Nathan. Meanwhile, Ozzy, the dumb guy, goes to the basement. He hears again a child's voice coming from the crate.
Like, let me out.
Let me out. Which like, I mean, that's a fair trick to
sketchy.
play on someone
Sounded
because like if
just
you
like a
hear,
kid.
I mean, you hear stories like that all the time of like, oh, this kid got stuck in a fridge. Look what happened to what was her face on Cherry on Punky Brewster. You know, that's why you have to take the doors off fridges. By the way, people, before you throw them on the curb. So he tries to. He's like, what? Let me help you get out. While he's doing that, the shamrock that had been on the crate for 10 whole years falls off, and so now the leprechaun is free to run amok yet again. Busts out of the crate, is like, where's me gold? And does not kill Ozzy, which was, I thought, nice. But I guess he didn't have, his powers had run out. Yeah. They were weak, so like he couldn't use his powers to like get him or whatever. So Ozzy goes back upstairs and he tries to tell everybody that like, there's like this leprechaun, he tried to kill me. And everyone's like, ha ha ha, Ozzy, you're so crazy. And they all go down there to like investigate. And they found like a giant rat or something. And they're like, that's what it was, Ozzy, duh. And he's like, it wasn't a rat. Like, it was a person that was a leprechaun. Like, hello. But they don't believe him. So, go about their business. Next thing that happens, Tori's leg gets like grazed under the Jeep. And she thinks it's Nathan being like flirty and like touching her leg. She's like, oh, Nathan.
Caressing her leg underneath the Jeep.
Caressing it. But then she realizes it's not Nathan and freaks out and then like falls, and she has this like giant like scratch marks on her leg. And her dad comes and Nathan comes. And we're like, oh, it was just probably a possum. And we're like, what? Possum?
Sexual
a
possum.
sexual possum caressing your leg. Ooh la la. they're like, and then they hear a cat meowing. So they're like, oh, it's just a cat. So they follow the noise to this like old knot hole in a tree. And Tori's dad's like, yeah, let me stick my hand in there and get that cat out.
Who's meowing like hysterically, like, yeah.
So he's like, here, kitty, kitty, here, kitty, kitty. But it's not a cat, you guys. It's the leprechaun.
Who can apparently mimic anything.
He can throw his voice.
I think he has to have killed it or something.
He killed the cat.
I think so.
Oh, no. At least they didn't show it.
Including the body count.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't show that. I would have been very upset, would have walked out. But her dad gets bit by that leprechaun in that tree, but they don't see it again. They think it's this cat. So it stands like pretty nasty, and they're like, let's get you to the hospital. So they drop him off at the hospital, and we never see him again. So I don't know if there was like a deleted scene where like his hand did give birth to baby disease leprechauns or something, and they're like, we don't have enough time for this, and they cut it out. But like he's just never heard from again. He gets easy breezy, hangs out in the hospital with nothing, lets his daughter deal with this leprechaun. So at some point also, Ozzy and the little kid Alex, who, I mean, let's just call him Little Walt Buddy throughout the rest of this synopsis and the rest of the podcast. Because I forget his name was Alex. Like he's Little Walt Buddy. That's who he is. They find a rainbow, and you know they're like, oh, if we go to the end of the rainbow, we'll find the gold. So they do that. It leads them to like an old truck, and they find the gold, a bag of gold.
Well, first they find one piece.
One piece, which Ozzy's like, I know how to tell if it's real or not. You bite it. And like as he's biting it, he accidentally swallowed it, which like that coin was big. So
those fake chocolate coins.
Yeah, that was how big it was.
That's how big it was.
He could not have swallowed that.
No.
So
He would've choked.
okay. But he swallows it, and then they find the bag with the rest of the gold. So they're super excited.
And then like Little Walt Buddy's like, we're gonna use this to get you an operation.
I don't know.
To make you smarter. Like,
and like he knows that's not a real thing, but like why does he tell if he like knows that's not a real thing? Then what? I don't know. And Ozzy was like, I'm not smart. And it's like, Ozzy, you are smart because you're the only one that knew it was a leprechaun, and nobody fucking believed you. But anyway, so they go into town and they bring the gold to like an appraiser or Joe's Coins or whatever the store's called. You know, the creative team wasn't about to break the bank thinking of names for different businesses in this town. They're like, we need a name for this painting company. Who are they? Oh, you know, 3 guys who paint. Okay, 3 guys who paint. Joe's selling coins. Joe's Coins. Done.
Well, Joe's Coins and like random creepy antiques, right?
Random fucking creepy ass mannequins that no one in their right fucking mind would want to purchase. I don't know how those antique stores stay in business. Like I know there are people who are like, I love
wealthy.
creepy dolls. Someone on my Instagram feed is like, look at this new little creepy doll I got. I'm like, why do you have that? Do you not want to go to sleep at night? So the guy's like, yeah, this is a very unusual coin. It has strange language on it. Wow. It's worth probably a lot of money, right? He tells them.
Yeah.
So they take it with him. Meanwhile, the leprechaun has found a tricycle and has triked all the way into town behind them. That because they drove in the truck. He's like booking it on that trike, and like I guess that's part of his leprechaun powers that he's really fast. Is my guess. But man, he made great. He made
the guy
excellent.
finds all kinds of transportation.
He made
this movie.
excellent time on that
Skill.
tricycle. I was impressed.
Yeah.
So he so he tracks them down, goes to the Joe's Coins store. He doesn't have a coin though.
Yeah,
Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, they left
He's
him
like, leave it with me. I'll research it. So he's like looking at the book of like old Celtic coins, and he sees something.
Okay.
So the whole leprechaun beef is that basically like if you have his gold, like he's gonna kill you, right? So he had some of his gold.
And like again, I don't know if that. I mean, that's this leprechaun's beef. I don't think traditionally leprechauns will try to kill you if you steal their gold. So maybe he was just like an angry one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll find out more in the prequel.
Leprechaun Origins.
I'm
here for it.
Origins. We'll figure it out. But so he kills the shop owner guy and takes the coin back he kills him with a pogo stick.
I think one of the worst death scenes I've ever seen.
It was pretty great. It's pretty creative.
Crazy and creative.
I respected it. I was like, wow, they're going there. Okay. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, would a pogo stick impale you like
No.
that? No, but it was like a pointy pipe. Like, you know how pogo sticks have the cap on it?
Yeah. So you can bounce on it.
I think it had a...
Well, I mean, just in the close-ups, because otherwise they can't like physically puncture without it being pointy. So
it was nasty.
I think realistically, you probably could not kill someone with a pogo stick, but this is a B movie, a comedy, horror movie.
Maybe
so.
like hurt some internal organs. the very least.
Yeah, you might have some problems there. Internal bleeding, et cetera, et cetera. So he's dead. He gets his coin back. Hooray. The crew, meanwhile, geez, I forget what happened in this part.
Well, they're
like
at a
mucking
diner
around
waiting for the guys.
Oh yeah, and then they come back, and then they're like, "Let's go home." They go home, and then
the leprechaun had like trashed the place, right? That's when he like ate the cereal and all like the shit was everywhere.
Oh yeah,
but then he
I feel
kills
like
that cop
took forever. Oh, the cop. Oh, so he finds this car. At the antique store, there's like this little car, like kind of like those cars that you get today, Power Wheels, but like old and antique. So he's like, "Ooh, look at the Irish found a car," and so
just my size.
Yeah. So he gets in the car and like drives it back to the house. On the way, he gets pulled over by a cop, and he pulls over, which is surprising. I feel like he could have just used his leprechaun power to like disappear and reappear.
He obeys the law.
He could do that many times. He could just like, transport himself places. Yeah. So I don't know why he just prefers fun vehicles, I guess. But he kills that cop. It was a pretty long scene, really. It's like they could have killed that cop a lot faster than they did.
Yeah, he like messes with his face with his nasty, gross, like fuzzy. Yeah,
he has these
mold nails,
giant leprechaun mitts. I would call it. They're like kind of like
bear claws,
Bigfoot hands, like probably the same hands from Harry and the Hendersons, but with like fake nails on them. So those can do some damage. Those claws.
Yeah, he scratches the shit out of his face and is like chasing him through the woods, and then is kind of just like playing with him, and then finally like jumps on him like out from a tree and like is on his shoulders and just breaks his neck.
Oh yeah, so he's dead.
Yeah,
he's dead. Also, the leprechaun seems to have a superpower. Oh, we already talked about this, where he throws the voice. He like mimics the voice. So keep that in mind. So the crew's back at the house. Yeah, the place is trashed because the leprechaun was looking for food or something. I guess he's hungry. He's been sleeping in the crate for 10 years, and he's 600 years old, by the way. So Nathan runs outside for some reason, maybe because he heard a noise. There's a bear trap that he steps in and gets his legs stuck in, but the leprechaun had put that trap down. Mm-hmm. And so finally everyone finds out that Ozzy was right this whole time, and you know what, there is a leprechaun, except for Tori, who's like, I don't think that's a leprechaun, we don't know what that is. And it's like, Tori, I mean, at the very least you could know that it's a guy dressed as a leprechaun. Like, he's definitely dressed as a leprechaun. Have you ever seen a leprechaun? That's what a leprechaun looks like.
Yeah.
So
she just wasn't a believer.
Put it together.
She was a skeptic.
That's true. She was a skeptic until the end. So now the whole movie kind of is like running away or trying to figure out how to get away from this leprechaun and kill it. So let me tell you how they kill it, how they think they can kill it is to shoot it with a gun maybe 25,100 times.
Which does work.
Never works. It knocks him out for like a half a second, but he always gets back up again. So it's a lot of that.
That's what makes him so tricky.
He can disappear and reappear in places. He's like always playing pranks and stuff. He finds another vehicle at this point, or he puts it together in the barn. It's like another little, like, kind of like a downhill derby car, like one of those what's that called? Like slot car racing or something?
Pinewood Derby.
Sure. All of the above. And like knocks over their truck and they go like flying. They're all fine, but it's it's calamity. So then it's just a lot of like running amok, basically.
Yeah. They're stuck in the house.
They're trying to figure out how do we kill this.
He comes back inside.
But then he's like always asking for his gold. So then they're like, oh, that's what he wants. He just wants his gold. So they tell Ozzy and Little Wop Buddy tell her Tori where they put the gold, which is like in the well. So she goes out and gets it and then gives it to the leprechaun. He's like, give me my gold. And she's like, here you go. And then he's like, great. And you kind of think that like, okay, it can't be that easy, right? So the leprechaun's like, all right, I'm gonna count all this gold here. And he's like, number 1, 2, 3, and gets up to 99, and there's a piece missing, and he's pissed because he wants all of his gold. And of course, we know where that last piece of gold is. It's in Ozzy's stomach. All he had to do was have a BM, get a bowel movement,
I really
pass
thought
that
they were
out.
Gonna kill him, and I was like, I'm walking out of this movie.
I thought he was going to barf or something, and then I was like, great. So there's a spider, a rat, and barf. Like, this is the trifecta of Sweetie and I's biggest fears in one movie. But don't worry, we'll get to that. So they finally, the people in this town, Nathan, Little Walt Buddy, and Ozzy, finally tell us that, Mr. O'Grady's still alive. He's like at this nursing home.
He'll know what to do.
It's like, okay, guys, great. You could have told us this forever ago. We could have saved a lot of trouble. So Tori hightails it to there. The leprechaun has already made it there and has like already killed Daniel O'Grady, but he can still tell her the magic part about how to kill a leprechaun, which is you have to pick a fresh picked 4-leaf clover and put it on his body. Ta-da. Easy. So she's like, great, I'll do that. So goes back to the house, looks in the patch. There's like this sweet little patch next to the well. It's green. Can't miss it. Yeah. She's looking for a little while. Leprechaun comes out. Scary. And then there's more tussles.
Yep, she finds like the policeman's car and is like, "Oh my god, the police!" Like that's such a horror movie trope when everyone's like, "Oh, thank God." Like the police, and then it's some guy dead in there, or the killer's in there, or whatever. So then she's able to use the police baton and like, what do you call it when you not poke out someone's eye?
Gouge.
Good one. Gouges out his eye, and he's like missing an eyeball, and he takes his hands and he gouges out the policeman's eye and like pops it in his
it's pretty
eye.
gross. It's pretty gross.
We're like, what is he doing?
Yeah, I was like, why does he need that eye? I was like, oh yeah, he lost
he's gonna
an
like
eye.
eat it or just
eye
like
for an
gross
eye.
her out.
I did think he was gonna eat it.
So then the guys end up coming because they heard her screams. Good thing she was a screamer. And they shoot him just to like, and it doesn't really do anything, but it stuns him for a little bit, and then they get the fuck out of there.
Get the fuck out.
So thank God. And then that's when Ozzy's like, oh, I know, like he's looking for like the last pot gold that like I swallowed, and is kind of thinking I think he wants to be like sacrificial lamb, and they're like, no, we're gonna find the 4-leaf clover. So they find the 4-leaf clover. Jennifer Aniston's like, we're never gonna find it, blah 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 blah, and Ozzy's like, you have to believe. So then it becomes this whole like sort of cheesy like, you have to believe in leprechauns and this and that, and only because he had kind of a mind of a child that like he did, and kind of kept everybody going. So that was kind of sweet.
That was sweet.
Yeah.
So they find it. Hooray!
Hooray!
Little Walt Buddy tries to like catch the leprechaun. He's not afraid. He can do it. He says that out loud several times. You can always tell a movie that's poorly written by like how often the characters decide to monologue.
Yeah.
Like, why are you talking? Like, have you ever? Like, I talk to my cat, but only because that's my cat's there. But I think if my cat wasn't around, I don't think I'd be like, okay, and now I'm gonna take this bowl and put something in it. Okay, yep, I'm gonna eat this. It's very bizarre. So it's kind of a distraction for the leprechaun. They got the clover, and then Ozzy comes and he's like, "You want me? I swallowed the coin." So tries to get Ozzy, claws him, like gets him a few times. He's very bloody.
Takes the buckle off his sketchy shoe and starts slashing him with it.
Pin.
He's gonna like slash his stomach open because the coin's in there.
Well, it's resourceful, but Little Walt Buddy has a slingshot. Puts the 4-leaf clover in a piece of gum, which I was pretty nervous about because I was like, is he going to ruin the integrity of that 4-leaf clover? Yeah, does that count? Could it, if it's like one leaf comes off, is that it? Little Walt Buddy fucked it up. But straight shot into the leprechaun's mouth. He swallows it. Boop, he's dead. Flies into the well. Starts like disintegrating and like green goo and melting. Kind of like the gremlins when they would get sunlight on them and dead. But then he's like still alive and he's like, I want me gold. But Nathan comes and like hits him with the butt of the gun and then sets the well on fire and it explodes. So all is good. Police finally show up and then you're like, hooray, all is done. We're safe. But then the leprechaun's like, blah, blah, rhymes. When my gold returns, I'll come back. And it's like, oh, a sequel. Perfect. Woohoo. And that's it. So again, no word on Tori's dad. I hope he made it. I hope he did not get an infection. Maybe that's part of the sequel. Maybe it's like the dad, I'm still on his hand to give birth to baby leprechaun. I don't know why. Like, I was just like so convinced.
That's not part of the myth.
Well, I've just seen, there's so many horror movies like that where it's like you think someone just got like a bad bite, but then it like develops into something bad. So I don't know. I had a lot of things. But yeah, funny movie. Obviously, I think the main comedic gold, if you will, comes from the different vehicles that the leprechaun chooses to drive, because they speed up like the speed of those shots. So like the tricycle, he's like really fast. It's just really funny to see like this little person on this little thing.
The little like Power Wheels car, the one he makes in the barn, the skateboard,
he
the wheelchair.
The wheelchair.
Is there any others? No, that was it, right? Yeah, he does like all different devices. In general, the physical comedy of that Leprechaun was like hilarious. Whether he's like he's doing all these little dancing things. He's trying to, doing more like fighting, violent-y kind of things. Yeah, he's always like popping out of cupboards.
Popping out of cupboards and like saying funny things and being like diddly diddly doo and like running away. Like it's like, so funny.
In the funny little
I liked
accent.
it. I enjoyed it.
And obviously all the little like Irish-isms that they stick in there, like top of the morning to ya, like pot of gold. It's very stereotypical, all that stuff. Was just hilarious. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think there were definitely a couple decent jump scares. I yelled into my baby's ear at one point. I was like cuddling Sweetie Junior, and I'm like, "It's okay, Sweetie Junior. Like, I love you." And then the leprechaun like popped out of a cupboard, and I was like, "Ah!" Poor thing.
She does it every time.
She jumped like a mile.
It was funny. She was fine though. Yeah, I mean, I knew every single thing that was coming because they do it. I mean, they don't like, you can just tell, like there's a scene where like they focus on weird things and you're like, why are they showing us like restarting this car and looking under the hood? And I was like, oh, there's going to be a scene later where they do that same thing, because it's such a horror movie trope to give you this false sense of security of like, we've seen this before, I know what happens, he opens that and then does this, but the next time something's going to jump out of there and scare you. And like anytime the camera like kind of zooms out on somebody, that like something's gonna pop in because the camera's getting ready to like get ready for the room in the shot for that to happen. So you can spot those things over time. So like old hat at horror over here. I'm like, oh, this is fun. They also stole a lot of things from movies. I felt like there's a scene where Tori is like talking on the phone or answers the phone, and like, oh, it's gonna be the leprechaun on the other line. Have you seen Nightmare on Elm Street? Hello. It's always the person. So she picks it up.
Nightmare on Elm Street. I'll be your boyfriend.
Yeah, and then like the tongue like comes out of the phone. So this like little leprechaun hands come out of the phone, and like same thing like Nightmare on Elm Street. There's another moment too that I was like, oh my god, it's such a throwback. I can't think of it now, but there were a bunch of things like that where they clearly like lifted it. So I can see like this isn't by any means like a good horror movie, I suppose, but it is entertaining. So like I definitely would put it in the camp of like Child's Play and those kinds of movies.
I like the use of the leprechaun myth and like all that stuff, whether that stuff, some of it's true, some of it's not. One of the big things was the way they distracted the leprechaun. So I guess they're like a shoemaker, like a cobbler is the occupation of the leprechaun. And the way they distract him is that they just like chuck shoes at him because he like can't see a shoe and not shine it. This is his like Achilles heel. So they're just like chucking boots at him, and he's just like running around the lawn like doing like a quick shine to each one. Oh my god, it was so funny.
I did love classic.
And then when he was like ransacking the house, he like had to go through the closets and like put all the shoes out and then starts like shining them.
Love it. It's like a tick.
Yeah,
it's good times.
That was really funny. So yeah, I don't know. It was really great. I'm gonna recommend this to people. I'm gonna recommend this to people on the street now. I'm like, have you seen Leprechaun? You think I'm kidding, but it's pretty good.
St. Paddy's Day tradition.
Yeah.
Leprechaun.
Oh my god, I love it. Okay, so yeah, I started to do some research on leprechauns. Didn't go that far because it was kind of boring. So apparently they started in the 8th century Celtic kind of myth about this fairy, sort of a lone fairy. So they're known as a fairy, which is interesting. I never would have like thought that. And then their name comes from Gaelic, like out of the water. So they used to like live in the water or near the water or something. Interesting. But yeah, it's a huge part of like Irish lore and obviously still persists today. It's like the main sort
And are they like
symbol.
Troublemakers?
I don't know if they're
I think
troublemakers,
so.
but
I thought they were kind of like impish.
Yeah, impish, but they have this connection to the whole gold thing.
Yeah.
What else did we learn today? If you wear green, they can't see you. What other questions did you have?
I got them wrong, so I don't remember. But like, if you know their name or something, if they know your name, if you catch them,
they have to show you the pot of gold, right?
Shine your shoes or something. Isn't there like something with
something was dancing or something?
I don't know. Maybe we should retake the test.
Yeah, the leprechaun test.
Clearly, Sweetie would have gotten a bad score also.
But yeah, Leprechauns. That's all I have about leprechauns.
Great.
I wanted more. I wanted like some
Yeah.
more concrete facts, but
Well,
they
still time.
yeah, they wear green, little green suit. Old men in
Buckles
green
on their
suit.
shoes.
They're 2 to 3 feet tall. That's all I got.
That's it. Cool. Great. Cool. What else you got?
And the last thing I have is just some 90s things that are always fun to point out, in these 90s movies.
Love 90s.
Okay, I loved how Jennifer Aniston referred to her cell phone as the portable. Oh, I have the portable. And she like runs to use her cell phone and it dies, but she like does call the police department. Unfortunately, the leprechaun, it's one of the times he's like able to throw his voice and it's like pretends to be one of the cops, and the cops don't come. Let me just tell you. We identified ugly strappy mule shoes, which was some of our favorite fashions. Just kidding, not favorite fashions to come out of the 90s. Ugh.
Pretty terrible.
Ugh. And then like at one point the leprechaun's shining like the blue velour like strappy mule, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Burn those shoes.
Also, you can't shine like a velour velvet, right?
Maybe he can because he's an expert.
Yeah. Headbands, a lot of good headbands that were basically like falling off of her head. Also did not really use them to the way you're supposed to because she had bangs and they just kind of were like sitting on her head, not
Wasn't that,
pushing
like-
her bangs
that was,
back.
like, the style,
It
though,
was the
right?
style. That's
Yeah.
what bugs me about headbands.
Yeah.
Just like ornamental, not
Yeah.
functional.
Yeah. Still today.
Hate it. And then LA Gear high tops. So Jennifer Aniston had these white ones. She had the cool sort of, I forgot what those socks were called that were like really bunchy and you like
Tube socks? No.
kind of, but like, someone's going to call me
Yeah.
out.
Those, like, thick
call me out on
socks,
this. Liz had them, our older sister, and they were just kind of crazy. So they went kind of like, you had a high shoe, but then you had like the sock and then you'd scrunch them down. I remember Liz had
scrunch.
this certain scrunch that she would do. And then it was a roll at one point.
No,
She
I
this,
did a
like,
roll. Remember I did a roll,
Or
a
you did
tight
the
roll,
roll,
and it
yes.
was like...
What was with the tight
weird.
roll?
I don't know. I liked it.
Oh my
It wasn't
God.
like a fad. I just liked to do it.
I don't know. I think it was a fad.
No, I don't think so. I think it was just a weird thing I did.
Sock rolling, man.
Where did they do LA? What are those shoes called?
LA Gear.
LA Gear was like always like a prize on like Nickelodeon
Yes.
game shows. Like you win LA Gear.
Yep. Or as Sweetie Jimmy brought up, British Knights was the other one at the time that were kind of a big,
Let me tell
big
you,
deal shoe.
LA was a big deal in the 90s.
Yeah, it
like
was.
it was like such a thing. Like LA Looks, LA Gear, LA Looks was like the hair gel. Everyone wanted to be there.
Even all the movies, like a lot of the movies we've covered in the 90s, like that we talked about, like early 90s, how it was just like everything was set in LA, or that was like the
dream. Look
Yeah.
I mean, Beverly Hills 90210 obviously was
right.
like the heyday of
Coming
that.
out of there.
So,
And then for the men, they had the Reebok pumps, which if y'all remember were the, little basketball, and then you would like pump it up
those.
theoretically to make the shoe tighter. I never
I don't
confirmed
get
what
it.
that was for.
Yeah. Did we verify if did that actually work?
I don't know.
Jimmy had the knockoffs. Jimmy had the LA
It makes
Gear.
the shoes tighter?
Jimmy says it worked.
Okay.
All right.
Pump it
Pump
up.
it
Why
up.
do you need tight shoes?
Why do you need tight shoes? Can't you just lace them? Do they not have laces? They also had laces. Interesting. I think it was a con. Obviously, I mean, if those were a good thing, we would still have them today, right?
Right. I think it's
But
just
now
feel
they've like
they-
developed the
they're
technology to
dumb.
be like, guess what? Just lace them up.
Right. Pull those laces real tight.
You'll be fine. Or better yet, Velcro. Velcro shoes. Don't have to
bring
tie.
Velcro shoes back.
I
Those
know.
are the best.
I saw a woman with the light up shoes yesterday walking down my street at night, and I was like, wow, great
Wait,
idea.
woman or child?
A woman. And I was like, how did you get adult ones like that? And I wanted to almost like go outside and be like, excuse me.
Here's another one I just thought of. Wait, you just said Velcro?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. Remember how exciting it was when you learned to tie a shoe, right? So you're like, you learn like the bunny ears, you do that whole thing. And for some reason when you're little, remember it's like so hard.
So hard.
You like cannot figure it out, and it's so frustrating. You're just like, I can't do
Much
it.
like everything.
And you're a little baby and you have your little Velcro shoes and whatever. But now I agree. Velcro shoes sound amazing. Why do we have to like conflate that with like being a kid
I don't know.
and being
I don't know.
like,
My
not
shoes
adult?
keep me out. My sneakers keep untying for some reason lately. They untied like 5 times the other day, and I was like, what is going on here?
I just think that's funny. That's like a milestone, tying shoes.
Yeah. I
And then
mean,
once you learn, you like
it's an
can't
important
unlearn.
life skill.
I
It's
know.
life skill.
But it's funny that you like you can't.
like riding a bike.
You can't do it at some point. Just like riding a bike. Yeah. It's weird that you to think that there's a point that you couldn't do it.
I know. Just like,
speaking.
I mean, it's like with everything.
Yeah.
I like trying to put contacts in for the first time. I had a
Right.
really hard time with it. I was like,
Yes.
I'm never going to get this. Now it's
Agreed.
just like second nature.
Agreed.
It's very fascinating, guys. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. That's the moral of this story. Believe and don't give up.
But go back to Velcro shoes because you should.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. But yeah, LA Lights, I love those. What about the ones where the wheels popped out? Remember
Wheelies.
those? Wheelies.
Yeah.
Do they have those or
My friend Evan has a pair of those.
dangerous.
I see kids with those all the time. They come back. They came back.
How do you pop them out again?
I don't know. There's like some foot flick you do or something. I don't know. It's a thing. It's a whole thing. But yeah, cool movie, good times. I'm glad I finally saw it. Feel good about it. I feel great.
Me too.
So yeah, happy St. Patty's Day, you guys. We ate some delicious corned beef and cabbage that Sweetie made. It was delightful.
Yeah. It's good to have that once a year.
Yeah. So hope you all had a great day. If you have seen Leprechaun, if you haven't, if you just want to talk about leprechauns, come find us on Twitter at Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you as always for listening. Bye.
Bye.